Once upon a time, in the small town of Wickwood, nestled deep in the shadow of the Blackthorn Forest, there lived a girl named Molina. To everyone at Wickwood Secondary School, she was the quiet, unassuming girl who sold the most delicious meat pies. Her pies were so irresistibly tasty that students often saved their lunch money just to have a bite. But what no one knew was the dark secret behind her thriving business. Molina wasn't like the other children in Wickwood. She lived alone with her grandmother, an old crone known to brew potions and whisper strange words into the wind. Rumors floated around town about Molina's lineage, that her mother had been a powerful witch who disappeared under mysterious circumstances. The whispers didn't bother Molina, for she had more pressing matters to attend to. Every morning, she would arrive at school with a basket full of fresh meat pies. The golden crusts were perfectly flaky, and the aroma of the seasoned filling wafted through the corridors, making everyone's mouth water. By lunchtime, the pies would be gone, and Molina would quietly count her money before disappearing until the next day. But there was something eerie about Molina. Her emerald green eyes seemed to see straight through people, and the way she spoke, soft, yet commanding, sent shivers down spines. Still, her pies were too good to resist, and so, the students ignored the strange chill that accompanied her. The new kid. Things took a turn one chilly autumn morning when a new student, Daniel, joined the school. He was tall, confident, and utterly unimpressed by the tales of Molina's pies. He scoffed at the students who raved about her baking, calling them gullible fools. "Don't you think it's odd?" he asked during lunch, watching as the others devoured her pies with greedy smiles. "You don't even know where she gets her meat." "Who cares?" said Lucy, a girl who sat next to him, licking her fingers. "It's the best thing in this boring school." "You're missing out." Daniel wrinkled his nose. "I've heard the stories about her family. Witches, they say. What if she's putting something in these pies? Spells, curses, or worse?" Lucy rolled her eyes. "You're just jealous. Try one, and you'll understand." But Daniel refused. Instead, he decided to investigate. That evening, he followed Molina as she left school, her empty basket swinging at her side. She walked briskly through the winding streets of Wickwood, heading towards the ominous Blackthorn Forest. Daniel trailed her from a safe distance, careful not to make a sound. The forest secret. Deep within the forest, Molina stopped at a small, dilapidated cabin surrounded by overgrown thorns and the faint glow of fireflies. She pushed open the creaking door and disappeared inside. Daniel crept closer, his heart pounding. He peered through a cracked window and froze. Inside, Molina stood over a bubbling cauldron. The air was thick with the pungent scent of herbs and meat. On a wooden table lay a collection of knives, gleaming under the flickering light of a single candle. But what made Daniel's blood run cold was the sight of a strange, clawed hand dangling from a hook above the table. It wasn't animal, it looked almost human. Molina began to chant, her voice low and melodic. The cauldron hissed and steamed, and the liquid inside turned a deep, unnatural red. Suddenly, the clawed hand twitched, as though it were alive. Daniel stumbled back, his foot snapping a twig. Molina's head snapped up, her green eyes glowing like emerald fire. "Who's there?" she demanded, her voice sharp and dangerous. Daniel bolted, the eerie sound of her laughter chasing him through the trees. The revelation. The next day at school, Daniel couldn't focus. He kept replaying the scene in his mind. What had he seen? Was Molina really using that in her pies? He needed proof. At lunchtime, he approached Molina's stand, where a long line of students waited eagerly for their share of her pies. She greeted each one with a small, polite smile, her hands deftly wrapping the pastries in paper. When it was Daniel's turn, he looked her straight in the eye. "I'll take one," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. Molina raised an eyebrow, as if amused by his sudden interest, but handed him a pie without a word. Daniel took it and walked to a quiet corner of the courtyard. He didn't dare eat it. Instead, he carefully broke it open, examining the filling. It looked normal, juicy, spiced meat encased in buttery crust. But then, he spotted it, a small, jagged piece of bone, no bigger than a tooth. His stomach churned. That evening, he returned to the Blackthorn Forest with a flashlight and a plan. He needed to find out the truth about Molina's meat pies. The dark ritual. When Daniel reached the cabin, he found the door slightly ajar. The inside was dark, but he could hear Molina's voice, chanting once more. He crept inside, his flashlight trembling in his hand. In the center of the room, Molina stood before the cauldron, her back to him. The clawed hand from before was gone, replaced by something even more grotesque, a severed head, its eyes vacant and staring. "You shouldn't have come back," Molina said suddenly, her voice calm but icy. She turned slowly, her glowing eyes piercing through the darkness. "Curiosity is a dangerous thing, Daniel." Daniel's breath caught in his throat. What are you doing?" he stammered. "What's in the pies?" Molina smiled, a chilling expression that didn't reach her eyes. "Do you really want to know?" She stepped closer, her movements graceful but predatory. "It's not just about the taste, you see. The pies are a gift, a way for me to share my magic with the world. And the secret ingredient, well, let's just say it's what keeps them coming back for more." Daniel backed away, his flashlight flickering. "You're insane." Molina's smile faded. "Perhaps. But you've seen too much now." She raised her hand, and the room seemed to close in around him. The air grew thick, and shadows crawled up the walls, reaching for him. The escape. With a surge of adrenaline, Daniel turned and ran, bursting out of the cabin and into the forest. Behind him, Molina's laughter echoed, a haunting melody that followed him all the way home. The next day, Daniel didn't come to school. The students whispered about his sudden absence, but Molina paid them no mind. She went about her business as usual, selling her pies with a serene smile. But Lucy noticed something strange. The last pie Daniel had bought was still sitting on the ground in the courtyard, untouched. Flies buzzed around it, and the golden crust had turned an unnatural shade of green. "What do you think happened to him?" Lucy asked, her voice trembling. Molina looked up from her basket, her emerald eyes glittering. "Some people can't handle the truth," she said softly, before turning to serve the next customer. And so, life went on in Wickwood, with students eagerly devouring Molina's pies, blissfully unaware of the darkness that lurked within each bite. As for Daniel, he was never seen again, though some say his screams can still be heard echoing through the Blackthorn Forest on cold, moonless nights.